Hello everybody and welcome back. I'm excited to be continuing with the journal that I'm creating with my letters kit this month. In my last video I kind of showed you a little overview of how the signatures were coming along, and we made a kind of envelope flip thing that was going to form part of the signatures as well. I did say that I was going to do some sewing off of camera only because my sewing machine doesn't fit on my table underneath my camera, so I have done some different bits of sewing. And because my journal is a little bit different in that it's kind of two journals in one, I've kind of got one half that is Mary's journal and the other half that is Henry's journal. I've started to have a little play around with Mary's side and with the binding. Only because in my head I kind of have a vision of how this is going together, but whether it will work I wasn't convinced or sure, so I thought I'd play around with her side first and then kind of see where we got on. So to show you what I've done, so I've added the fabric, as I said, just to where that raw edge was. I haven't put anything on the inside yet, although I do have papers ready down here. So this is what I'm going to have on the inside here, and I thought this went brilliantly because it has our memories on there. So that's going to go on there. I'm not attaching it for a very good reason, and that's because if I bring this back in, this is getting very chunky with all of these bits and pieces. This is the kind of binding that I have done. So they are on fabric tabs. Now I did say in my last video that I wanted to use this kind of postage style ribbon, but it is quite thin to obviously hold binding, so I have backed it with the dyed cotton that I had been using, and then I've done my binding, which I will show you how to do when I do Henry's side in a moment. Like I said, I was just checking with Mary's side that this actually works. So I've got these obviously flaps here, and I was umming and ahhing whether I wanted them to kind of come over the outside or if I want them tucked on the inside, and I think I prefer the kind of look of it if it's tucked inside the cover. So I'm going to glue those onto the inside, and then obviously to cover this bit I'm then going to have the paper on top, so it's going to kind of open and look more like that. So you will see obviously a little bit of it, but it will just cover it up a little bit more. So that's what I'm planning. I am just going to get to this stage though with Henry's one, and then depending on the time I will see if I can start attaching the covers. So if you are new here and you're just joining, I released a kit this month called Letters, and the kind of thought behind it when I was designing is that it is letters between a man and a woman, potentially in a romantic relationship. This is February. I was kind of thinking Valentine's, but didn't want anything too sort of pink hearts and lovey-dovey, which is why I went with the kind of letters. They could be writing love letters to one another. And I'm doing a, well, I think it's called a do-si-do journal. I think I've seen somebody else do a journal in a similar style and it was called do-si-do, but then I've heard other people say it's the endless journal, because I've got Mary's on this side. So you're going to flick through, you're going to see Mary's part of the journal, and then you essentially come to a cover. But when you close that cover, you're then going to have Henry's stuff on this side, so it's like two journals in one. That's the idea. As I say, I am quite loving how this is looking, because you have got bits hanging out the outside. I love the fact that you can see the mailer strips on this side from that ribbon, so I think this is going to look pretty cool. And then when I decorate the front cover, I'm kind of envisaging like envelopes and stuff on there, and then the picture of Henry on the front cover of this one, and then obviously on Henry's one it'll be a picture of Mary. So as I said, I'm going to show you the binding and how I have kind of put these signatures together. So I'm just going to move Mary's. Oh, I do just want to show you, I did, like I say, do my sewing. So I have gone through and I have put different bits of either trim or lace and bits in here. I haven't embellished the tags yet. They still need obviously ribbons and things in them, and there are some pockets that still need to be filled, but the basics are there. So that's Mary's half. So let's try and keep this together and move it over. And then this would be Henry's side. So I'm just going to move the letter out the way so that's gone. As I said, this is going to go on the inside cover of Mary's. I've then got these two kind of 8x8 sheets that I thought might look nice on the inside of the other two covers. So this one I thought was quite nice because you've got the envelopes and you've got the kind of vintage photos. And this one I thought is still grungy enough. I mean, yes, it's got a butterfly, but it's neither sort of masculine or feminine, but still has that little grungy look, which a lot of the masculine pages have. So they're my paper choices for the insides of the covers. Now, this did take a little bit of working out, which is why I did Mary's off of camera. And I actually used this We Are Memory Keepers binding tool to kind of help me measure out as best I could how the binding was going to go. Because as I say, I've got these 3 strips. And you can see I've already kind of poked my holes to get them ready. And I'm going to have the envelope part in the middle. Was this going to be my first one? So this is going to be, yeah, my first signature. And yeah, again, I've done some stitching on his. I didn't add any lace, but I have got some sort of brown ribbon, some leaves, and I've got this kind of weird sort of brown fabric, and I've added all different sort of bits and pieces on there as well. So yeah, his is all embellished as well, and I've got some eyelash trim as well that was quite dark. So yeah, so with my binding, I knew I obviously wanted 3 strips, and I've got essentially 3 signatures. I've got 2 that are kind of journaling type, and then I've got the envelope flip, which is kind of in the middle. And then, like I said, I used this to kind of make my template, and I know you can't really see it on here, but I've got obviously 2 holes towards the bottom, 2 towards the middle, and 2 towards the top. Now it doesn't quite work with the envelope flip, which I'll show you here. So on the envelope, the hole is literally just above the opening of the envelope and just below. And I'm sure there is a binding where you could literally have one continuous piece of string. I literally did 3 tie-offs because it was just much easier. I know how to do a 3-hole and a 5-hole pamphlet stitch, but because this is 6 holes and it was already kind of fiddly and tricky enough, I didn't want to learn another new way of binding as well as trying to do this. So this is how I've done it. Obviously, if you are creating your own, kind of following along with what I'm doing, but you know of a different way to bind, by all means crack on with your way. But yeah, this was just easiest for me. And then, as I say, you've got your kind of 3 stitching. Yeah, so I used this to kind of measure it out. I've created my template just to make it easy. I've already punched my holes in excuse me. I've already punched my holes in these, so they are all ready. So I'm just got to do them in these. But what I did was start in the middle. Now normally when I'm sewing in signatures I start from the back, but because this is smaller and it's a little bit more awkward, I did start in the middle. So I'm going to do the same again. Now I promise I will try my best to stay within frame, but as I said, this was a fiddly process. I am going to move this out the way because I don't need this anymore. But I did just want to say I do like this binding system. I don't often use it, I must admit. I just kind of freehand it normally and just poke my holes when I'm doing the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. But this just made it so much easier to kind of count the gaps and get it all even and the right height, because I was doing a tab binding and because it needed to be a specific sort of distance apart. This I found actually worked really well and made it much easier. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is open up this. I'm going to take my template, and I think actually I did it on the back just because it was easier. And then I kind of, and again, you're not going to be able to see this on camera, but I can see through this hole that I'm now seeing a green mat rather than the fabric. So I just kind of lined that up to make sure that it's along the middle. And then obviously there's no hole to kind of mark there because that, like I said, is just above the envelope. But I'm just going to mark where my other ones are going. Okay, so I've got a pencil mark there. Those are the two for the middle, and that's the one for the top. I'm just going to double check that one because it did look like. Nope, it did come off. Okay, it just looked like I could have done it on the fabric then, but no, it was. So I'm just going to poke my holes. Okay, and then on these, I've obviously got the markings on this fabric. I haven't got it on here because obviously with this being patterned you can't really see it. So my markings are on the back. So all I'm going to do is poke through. So I go through both layers and I'm just going to create those holes just so it's easier when my needle's going through. So I just kind of pull the fabric taut between my fingers and push through. Okay, so that's that one. I'm just going to do it for all three just so that part is done. Okay, so that's that all done. I'm just going to pick this one, I think, and I will start at the middle. So you've got to obviously make sure this has pictures on. If you're using a fabric that doesn't have pictures, then obviously you don't need to worry about orientation. This at the moment is upside down, so that's the way it's going to go. So I'm just using a black wax thread, and I do have this is like a blunt needle that's for this kind of binding, and then I just cut a strip. Now I do make my strip super long just because, as I said, it's super fiddly trying to tie the knots, so that is overkill. If you're okay with fiddly, then obviously you don't have to make yours quite so long. I find it very difficult to tie the knots because I'm not very good with fiddly things, so I am making it extra long for myself. So I'm going to start in the middle, so I go through that hole. Obviously this is going to be in the middle of the signature, so again just checking that that's the right way up, and I'm going to go through the middle hole at the top, pull it through, then going to go through the middle hole at the bottom, pull it through. It is a bit stiff going through fabric, and then back through the envelope. Okay, then that pulls up. I take my needle off, and then I'm going to tie my knot. So this is where it all starts to get quite fiddly, and I will be sort of turning my envelope around a bit. And I'll do my best to kind of show as much as I can, but obviously, as I said, this is a kind of fiddly thing trying to tie a knot, so it's not going to be totally clear on the camera. Okay, so I'll leave my strings for now. I sort of trimmed those at the end once I was happy with everything. So I'm going to bring it back round. I'm going to get my next one again, make sure that it's actually the right way up. and then this is going to go at the top. So again, I need a length of this, and I told you it is overkill, but it just makes it easier, I think, for tying that knot. I mean, you may even like the long strings. Now this is going to go out the bottom. Again, just check the orientation. Remember, middle hole. I did make that mistake when I was doing the other one. In through the top. Obviously you haven't got to come through the envelope for this one. Now I did not tie this tight, only because I didn't want to then start pulling the fabric. So I'm just going to tie a bow for now, and I'm going to grab a paper clip. And I'm just going to paper clip where that is for now. Once I've got the actual signatures in, because like I said, I don't want this bunching up, because obviously it's not really sort of stiff or stable at the top here. Again, it may be different for you if you've got like a larger envelope, but this is just how I found it worked with the other one. So find my needle. So if you're following along, I really do hope this makes sense. I'm sorry if it doesn't. Like I said, in my head, I had a vision of how this was going to look. So far, I can actually say I'm quite happy with how it's going. I quite like how it's all kind of coming together. I had no idea really how I was going to kind of bind it. I just knew what I was kind of looking for. So again, I'm just going to tie that and then pop a paper clip on just to stop it moving about. Okay, so that is essentially that done. So I'm just going to close this up a minute. You over there. Right, I'm then going to do the front signature, which was this one. So I'm going to move that out of the way for a second because I need to make my holes. So before I make my holes, I just need to make sure I'm happy with where everything is. Now, because these slide around a little bit, I am just going to take those out for a moment. So I've got my map pockets, I've got some tea stained paper, got that paper, and I've got a paper bag that can go in the middle, that can come down a little bit, that's up there, another tea stained page, they can go there, and that one like that. So just making sure that it's all kind of together. I'm just then going to get a big clip just to kind of hold it in place. I'm then going to open it up, and this strip is pretty much sort of top to bottom. Again, I just do the same as what I've done with the label, so I'm just going to draw my dots. Okay, and then using my pokey tool, I am just going to obviously bend the pages just because it's easier, and then I'm just going to look to where those pencil marks are. So my first one's down here at the bottom, then just going to push through, pull it out, find the next one. Cool, that's a bit stiffer, that one. Push it through and find the next one, which is there. Push it through. And the next one, which is there. Now, if I've come slightly off the centre, obviously I will just sort of follow where the dot is, but go to where the actual fold is. So I'm not fussed if I haven't drawn my dot exactly on the fold. Okay, and then we've got this one here. It's very tricky to see on the map. And the last one, yeah, so that one you can see isn't even on the fold. So all I'm going to do is just kind of follow along where it was, but just poke through the fold. Okay, so that's that signature done. So this is going to be the front one, and I'm just going to follow the same process. Like I said, there may be a fancy way to sew 6 holes altogether. But yeah, I know it's easy if there's an odd number. I wasn't sure if there was an even number, and like I said, this just felt quite sort of fiddly and new anyway, and I didn't want to then complicate it by then trying to also learn another method for binding. So I'm just going in the very top hole of my signature, the very top hole of the fabric tab. Whoops. I'm going to pull that through the bottom hole of the fabric tab, through the hole, and hopefully if it's all lined up, yeah, it just comes through. I can tell you now that doesn't always happen. The amount of times I'm having to fight. Okay, and again, I'm just going to tie my knots. Now these I can make nice and tight because I've obviously got the support of the whole signature. I just need to make sure that that bottom bit's really, really tight, and then hold on to it while I make the knot over the top. Okay, and then the other way. Okay, again, I'm going to leave my strings long until I'm happy and satisfied. I am just going to double check that that is the right way up. Yeah. That would not be a first, putting a signature in upside down. I mean, I know it's a lot of faffing around having to keep cutting and rethreading, but this did just feel like it was the easiest way. Yep, so this time it's not playing ball, and it's not going through quite as easily. Oh, there it is, there it is. Right, knot. Next. Lost the pin now. Where's it gone? There it is. Right, so out through the bottom. Through the bottom fabric. Through the bottom of the signature. Nope. There it is. Oh, right, there we are. So, signature 1 and envelope flip thingy is attached. I'm going to do the same to the back one. So I'm going to first of all just sort out my pages. So this one's a little bit different because in the middle I have an envelope, so I'm actually going to be binding into here. So I'm just going to have that completely open up just so obviously it is easier. But that's going to go there. That's going to be roughly in the middle. Got some tea stained paper. Got that page. What have we got? Music page. Just going to lift that up slightly. Music page, tea stain page, more scrapbook paper, and then that's the last one. Okay, so just going to open that up. Again, I'm going to do the same. So just pop the clip on. Just trying to grab that envelope as well. That's it. Okay, so we're going to let it just fall open and repeat that process. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and again if I'm not dead on the folds then it just means that I obviously punch my hole to the side of it. Actually was pretty good with that one. So again I'm just going to start punching my holes. The first one is down here. The next one is inside the envelope. And the last one is up the top here. Excellent. Right, let's get the last one sewn in. Now for this I do find it easier turning it upside down. So that's what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to make sure that this is upside down, this is upside down. And I'm going to repeat the process. Okay, so now that that last signature is in, we can now go back to the middle, to the envelope flip, and we can tie off these because the fabric now has that little bit of kind of structure because it's obviously now being held into place by the signatures either side. I'm just going to open this up just to make it a little bit easier. Now again, you still don't want to pull too tight because obviously it's going to then try and pull it in more. So I'm just going to pull the knot to the top. And tie my knot. Okay, and I'm going to do the same down the bottom. Okay, and now we can start trimming off some of these. So obviously you can leave these as long or as short as you like. I have trimmed mine quite short in Mary's, so I'll do the same in this one. So this is obviously just going to be a writing space, and then that gets kind of held closed by that one. Then we've got the middle of this signature somewhere. There it is. Again, just going to trim these short. I can also pop these bits back in. Now, like I said, I do know that these still need to be embellished. I have decorated the postcards, but these still need their ribbons and things. And then the final signature, there it is. Again, just going to cut those nice and short. Now these ones you're obviously not going to see because they'll be inside the envelope. And you can make a choice with these knots. You either move them so they're inside the envelope so they kind of get hidden, or you can obviously move them so they're over here. It's entirely up to you, but I will glue this down like that so that this envelope is then in the middle. But that then is that bound in, and it is nice and secure. It does kind of hang in there, which is really, really good. So that's that. So together with these combined, this is quite a chunky journal as it stands. So let's see how this is going to look. So that's going to go on the front. Then obviously we've got this binding here. I'm going to have this one in the middle. So obviously with the floral, so this looks like this is this journal. Then this side has the kind of grungier fabric. Now that's something I didn't say actually. I changed my mind with the fabric that I was using, because originally I had strips of this, didn't I? But this is going to work out too thick to be able to obviously get these in there as well. So that's why I've gone with that one. So yeah, so I've got this one then on that side, and then his journal is going to be the other way. And then what way around does that go? That way, isn't it? So it's going to look like that from one side. So you've got all the pretty florals from Mary's journal, and then the binding of Henry's. Then on the other side you've got the binding of Mary's, and then you can see the signatures of Henry's. So that's kind of how it's going to look from like a bird's eye view. And I must say I really quite love it. And like I said, it is quite chunky. I think I'm going to leave it there. I know it's a relatively short video today and all I've done is bound signatures, but I want to kind of get the cover bits ready so that I can actually start attaching these. I've got the inside papers ready, but I haven't got the front cover bits done. So I need to get those organised. So I do have like these kind of scraps of paper, and I was thinking that on Mary's journal obviously I want his picture, and I was thinking I kind of want an envelope on there or something, because obviously it's supposed to look like a stack of letters or something. So yeah, this is how I'm thinking I kind of want to decorate the covers. So hers is going to have a picture of him. These are the ones that I haven't backed because they are the ones that are going to kind of be stuck down, but again I just kind of feel like it needs more layers. So I'm going to dig around and find some envelopes and stuff that I can put on there, or maybe print some more from the kit that I can put on there, just maybe shrink them down so it's a bit smaller. And then obviously on his side it'll be a similar kind of deal, but obviously this time with her. But yeah, that's how it is looking at the moment. I'm super happy with this. As I said, in my head I have this vision and I wasn't sure, if I'm honest, how it would turn out, but I really love this binding. I think it's worked really well, so I just hope that once it's all kind of attached, it still kind of holds together and works really well. Well, I hope you're enjoying this process. I hope that I'm explaining it in a way that makes sense. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the covers finished and everything all attached together. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will see you all in the next crafty video. Bye for now.